What's up, everyone? Shaquille Mac Judy here for CBS Sports, and you know who this is. He fights Reinier de Ridder in the co-main event of UFC Des Moines on Saturday. And if things go his way, we won't be talking about the prospect Bo Nickal anymore, but the bona fide middleweight contender, Bo Nickal. How are you, sir?
Doing great. Thank you for having me on, brother.
Thank you so much for doing this today. Now, let's start here. You posted a video on your Instagram recently showing that you're entering fight week at about 37 pounds overweight. I gotta be honest, the editing looks a little fishy to me. Do you enjoy stressing out the MMA fans?
A big portion of this fight camp for me has been bulking up. I wanted to get a little bit bigger for the weight, and might have went a little too far with it, but that's just, now I'm suffering a little bit the
Okay.
consequences of that. So it's part of the weight cut process, and I've never missed weight before in my life since I've been 5 years old wrestling. I've weighed in hundreds of times, so I feel confident I'll be able to get it done. And yeah, it might stress people out a little bit, but it's just part of the job for me.
Okay, so you're saying this is that weigh-in was legitimate that you posted.
Yeah, yeah, I'm
Okay.
gaining some weight. As you could see in the last fight with Paul Craig, I was undersized. He's a big middleweight, I think, and so putting some mass on was a big priority as this last few months.
Okay, well, we are at Wednesday right now. I wish you well in the weight cut journey. Hopefully, it's not too difficult.
Hmm.
Let's talk a little bit about the fight. Now, I saw another interview you did where you sort of talked about more broadly, obviously, Paul Craig, submission specialist, RDR, submission specialist. What's going to be the most different about how this fight looks on Saturday?
I think that as far as my opponent goes, I think that RDR will be a little more aggressive. His style,
Hmm.
he likes to get to the clinch a little bit more. He likes to bring things down to the ground a little bit more, shoots more takedowns. So I think that it's likely he's going to try to, force the fight to the ground in some way, whether that's clinch or put me on the fence, something like that. But I think that we'll be a little in close a little bit more. For myself, I've been working a lot of different areas. Obviously, my striking's improving. I was able this camp to train down in Austin, Texas with Gordon Ryan and Gary Tonin, some of the best jiu-jitsu athletes in the world. So I think my jiu-jitsu is improving a lot, and I feel excited to just go out there and continue to perform as well as I can. So yeah, I think that this fight will be definitely one that'll be fan friendly.
Now, he seems confident that he can take you down. When I asked him about sort of more broadly, just people with submission backgrounds tend to have a hard time developing good wrestling and MMA, and now you have arguably the best wrestler the UFC has ever seen standing across from you. He says he's been training judo since before you started wrestling. Your response?
Yeah, I don't know how long he's been training judo, but good for him. I think that he'll definitely have a hard time taking me down, but who knows, right? It's a fight, and there's a cage, so there's a lot of different things that I need to be aware of, and I hope he tries to bring me to the ground. I think that he's going to be shocked when we clinch. Of course, everybody knows me for folk style wrestling, collegiate wrestling, leg attacks, takedowns, but what most people don't know, I was multiple time Greco national champion and top guy, in the world in Greco-Roman wrestling as well as a kid. So I think that if he wants to lock up and look for some throws, then we can do that.
He sort of lamented the idea of this fight looking anything like the Paul Craig fight. He said, "Boo! No one wants to see that shit." Um, do you have any motivation? Does the, I guess, fan reaction to the pace of the last fight at all influence how you fight moving forward, or is that just like a non-issue, a non-starter for you?
Yeah, I think that I appreciate the fans concern, and I know they want to see um,
I mean, haven't you knocked out enough people in the UFC already?
yeah,
Like,
they want to see finishes. They want to see blood, and I think that it's tough for me because I've built a reputation as a finisher already, right? I'm 7-0 with 6 finishes, 5 of them in the first round, and
mhm.
so that's what people expect. And anytime people see something they don't expect, it can be a little bit frustrating for them. And I get it. I think that I sympathize with that, but at the same time, my priority is to win fights and just be the best in the world. So, that's what I want my fighting to look like, right? Like, I'm not here to be. There's guys that fight to be entertaining, and there's guys that fight to be the best. And I think I'm really leaning more towards the latter.
Mhm.
But I like to be a mix of both if I can, right? Like, I think that my track record, even though it's not the longest, that it's pretty solid so far as going for finishes. But yeah, you're really only as good as your last fight. So I get the fans' perspective as well.
The fans love to talk about the GOAT. Who's the GOAT and this, who's the GOAT and that. Bo Nickal, what is the all-time greatest scene or bit in The Office?
It's so funny that you asked this. I was literally just talking to some UFC employees about this earlier, and the
Like
number one
today?
the number one episode for me is the dinner party. I love the dinner
Mm.
party. That's one that I think can't be beat. You know, we got the plasma screen, got to push it back into the wall. We got the ossobuco that needs to brace for 3 or 4 hours. It's just, I don't know how the cast got through that scene without like, I don't even know how they got through it. It's unbelievable, unbelievable television. So yeah, hats off to them for that. That's my favorite.
There's so many good ones. I always enjoy sitting through like the palpable discomfort of when they have to bring in, I don't know what you call it, like an ethics guy or something to try and teach Steve Carell how to teach Michael
I
Scott
don't
how to
know how they
correctly.
did that. It's unreal.
Uh,
That wouldn't fly on TV anymore, but I'm glad they got it when they did.
I agree. You've closed. I was just looking through your online, bet not your online betting history, but fight odds for your fights, and you've closed as a four-figure favorite in every fight of your career. What does it say that right now you're predicted to close as a minus 325 favorite? Still sizable by UFC standards, but obviously not like the absurd gargantuan stats that we've seen up to date.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty crazy. The odds for my fights have honestly been insane. I look from the very first fight until now, and I think I was starting at, minus 3,000, 3,500, and now we're down at minus 325. And I think that it says a lot about, what people expect me, what people think of me. And I think the odds are that way for a reason, right? I think that I'm one of the most highly touted and most exciting prospects in the history of the sport. And now I'm fighting a guy who is 19-2. He's a former multiple division world champion, multiple title defenses, and I'm 3-1 favorite over him. So I think that for me, it doesn't do anything other than boost my confidence, and it sets the expectation that I have for myself. So I expect to be the guy that gets his hand raised at the end of the night on Saturday, and I think the odds reflect that.
Um, Eighth pro fight, if I'm not mistaken. If you win this, top 15 UFC middleweight, most likely, if things shake up as they should. How would you describe the escalation of the challenges you've been presented with in MMA relative to wrestling, where obviously you're competing a lot more, you spent your entire life there? Like, has this been a uniquely new experience for you?
Absolutely. I think, what's interesting is there's really I don't separate them a lot. I think that I kind of look at my life and my path all as one. And, you know, it's almost like when you look at anything with exponential increases, right? You can look at the curvature of investments, or look at like the way that the world works. When you put time in to something, the dividends pay a long way down the line. And so my wrestling career started at 5 years old, and it was a lot of work and a lot of time and energy spent from 5 to 18 to build my foundation and build my skills. And then you saw a lot of success from 18 to 25, domestically, internationally, winning national championships, world championships. But now you see me, eight, soon to be 8-0 in the UFC and beating some of the best guys in the world. And it seems like it's happened so fast, but the reality is this is a lifetime of work. This is dividends paying off now that I
Mm.
invested at, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. So really that's the way I look at it. It's not like two different things. It's really all the work that I've put in from a kid and all the sacrifices that I've made that are just starting to pay off because, I invested in myself and I invested in my skills at a young age, and yeah, that's pretty much the way I see it.
As we wrap up here, Bo, what is it going to mean to you to finally have a number next to your name? And like I said off the top, now officially be a contender in this division.
It'll be very exciting. I'm super pumped to get that number by my name. I think that that's definitely not the ultimate goal for me, but it's a nice step in the right direction
Mm-hmm.
to get to where I want to go, and it's a super necessary step. So I feel like, I'm not ever going to be the champion and be the pound for pound number one fighter in the world if I don't get ranked first. So I think that for me, this is a good sign that I'm moving the right direction and continue to improve and get better as a fighter.
Salute to you for chasing the Mr. Beast bag. How many Bo Nickals would it take to take down a gorilla?
I think that, you give me like three or four of me, I think we'll take him out, no problem.
Four.
Yeah, I know he was talking
Wow.
like 100. I'm like, dude, that's crazy. We look at a gorilla. The gorilla is a formidable opponent, right? Like they're big, they're strong. I don't really think their fighting skills are the best, right? Like
That's
gorillas
fair.
aren't, they're not known as fighters. They're not an animal that is regularly fighting. For myself, I see, one of us going low, one going high, somebody taking the back and dispatching them, pretty efficiently. So yeah, that's my
Okay.
prediction.
Fine. You guys have the game plan. You have the technique. I will let you know that a silverback can bench press can lift 4,000 pounds on a bench press. So that's
That's pretty
like,
close to what I could do. So yeah, not bad.
like Bo. Hey, you've got many other opponents to conquer before you get to that silverback gorilla. If there's anything you want to tell the people ahead of your fight against Reinier de Ridder at UFC Des Moines on Saturday, the floor is yours, man.
Yeah, just tune in. It's going to be a fun one, and I really appreciate any support that I get. Very grateful for it. Very grateful for all the fans that watch me, and yeah, let's have a good time.